Seiko Sebagwego, Skanakowaga, Amanda Casali Yungyats, ako zase Ganyegahagan and Wakajoran. So hi everyone. I acknowledge all of you and hope you're all doing well. My name is Amanda Casali. I'm a citizen of the St. Regis Mohawk Nation, and I'm excited for you guys to join us today. Just before we get started, I want to introduce our Office of Indian Education team. And so I'll start with our wonderful director, Julian Guerrero, as well as our discretionary group team leader, Dr. Donna Sabas-Burns, our discretionary team lead, Donna Bussell. And then we also have our education program specialist. We have Dr. Linda Brake, Dr. Misty Farber, and myself, Amanda Casali. Hopefully you guys get to know all of us and learn a little bit more about us as we go through the FPR process. So next slide. Before we get started too, we just want to do some key reminders. If you are closing your grant out on September 30th, you must submit both APR for this grant period, as well as an FPR for the entirety of your grant, which will be due 120 days after the final day of your grant performance period. If you are in a no cost extension or NSC or NCE, you do not need to submit an APR update. You only need to submit an FPR 120 days after the final day of your NCE date. Slide. Okay, so this is the unique landing page for the G5 system while you will submit your annual performance report. Please be aware of the scheduling. Sometimes the system does close for updates or regular maintenance. Please also note the time zone. Generally, the dates listed will be in Eastern Standard Time. And also, sometimes the G5 system can be a little finicky or likes to time out. So we do always recommend a pro tip, which is to gather all the information that you need, type it up separately, and then copy and paste it right into the G5 system. If you have any trouble with the G5 system, we do recommend you contact your program officer, or also please call the G5 help desk as well. Next slide. So you'll see on your screen a copy of one of our reporting forms. So you can access these forms online on our website. The website is there on the link or on the slide. So you can access all these forms online and the link provided. The EDF 524 reporting forms are documents that you need for your performance reports. So if you've previously submitted your APRs, the form will look kind of similar to those. Be sure that the expiration date indicates your form is current. Check the expiration date at the top right of the form. And as of today, it should read expires May 31st, 2027. If you are unsure about the form you have, and you can then always visit the link on the screen and in the chat box to obtain the most up-to-date copy. Also, there are several places that need to be completed for the FPR. For example, item 8C, which is the entire project period, should be completed. We have also emailed you the current ED 524 form. You may want to download the cover page and form now to follow along and take notes. We'll walk you through each of the required sections, which include not only the cover sheet, the executive summary, but also sections A, B, and C.
So we have grantees from various OIE discretionary grants programs listening into this webinar today. And so we just want to acknowledge that each unique grant program and grantee cohort will have different reporting periods for your final performance report. Basically, it is due 120 days after the end of your grant, after your end of your grant closes. The reporting period begins with the first day of each grant award. So this might be October 1st of the first year your grant was originally awarded, But again, it depends on your specific grant period. If you have any questions about that, please contact your program officer. The reporting period spans through the final day of the final fiscal year of your OIE grant. Typically, this is September 30th. If you're, again, unsure about your start and end date, please contact your program officer, or even go back and check your GANs or your grant award notification. Again, it's really helpful to think of your reporting period as the lifespan of this discretionary grants. And so getting a hold of those dates is important. Next slide, please.
All right. For your final performance report, there are 5 sections, and we're going to discuss each section in its entirety. For the first part of today's webinar, we're going to look at the cover sheet and the executive summary. So if you clicked on that link that was posted in the chat box, and I saw someone said there's multiple forms there, which one are we talking about? We're now going to talk about the cover sheet. All right. So as Amanda spoke earlier, the first thing you want to be sure is that you have the most recent version, and that should be in the upper right-hand corner. And for it to be current, it should have a May of 2027 date, I believe. Is that correct? But if you're in the link, then it should be the most current, but be sure you're not using one that was previously saved to your laptop. You will need a new cover sheet for your final performance report. And as you can see, the format is similar to what you have been using in your annual performance reports. For item number 1, be sure to include your unique PR number, and be sure that you are using the full number for the grant that is ending. You should be familiar with that number. It stayed consistent throughout the length of your grant. For item number 7, be sure that you are entering the full reporting period from the very first day of your grant up until the last day of your performance period. Item 8 includes several sub-items that pertains to budget expenditures across different time periods. There are 3 line items. 8A is your total expenditures from the budget period immediately preceding the final fiscal year of your grant. 8B is your total expenditures for the final fiscal year of your grant. And 8C is your total expenditure from all years of your grant's operation. Note that line C is not simply the sum of 8A and 8B. 8C should represent the cumulative total expenditures from the entire duration of your grant. All items should match what is listed in G5. So after you have paid out everything that there is to pay out, go ahead and put the amount that you used for your entire project there. For item 9, that talks about your indirect costs, and be sure that you are entering the most up-to-date indirect cost information. Sometimes your indirect cost rate may have expired, or it might have changed throughout your grant period. So double check to make sure that you are including the most information that is current, and do not skip it. For item number 10 is about human subjects and an IRB process. Everyone is going to check not applicable for item 10. And item number 11 pertains to programs with the Institute of Education Sciences only. None of ours do, so you will also be marking item 11 as not applicable. If we continue with the cover sheet, onto the second part of that, there are two important details to note here. Item number 12 is about the performance measure status that you are reporting on. In 12A, for your final performance report, you will be indicating yes. For questions about, do you have complete data for your performance measures? Because this is the final performance report, it is expected for you to have complete data, and you will not be reporting any 999s or zeros. You will have some type of data to enter into Section A when we get there. The last item on this cover sheet is the authorized representative certification. It provides room for the printed name and the signature of your authorized representative. By signing, they certify that the information within the report is true, complete, and accurate. Make sure to give your authorized representative a heads up so they know to expect the form and that they are required to sign it. Also remember that the authorized representative cannot be the same person as the project director. If you need to update your authorized representative, contact your program officer within the next few weeks so we can get that completed. So when it does come in with their signature, it is accurate. Although this cover sheet is the first section of your report, it might be the last thing that you do, as you want your authorized representative to preview an entire completed report before they sign it. Because as I noted, they're certifying that that information is correct and accurate. Once you've completed your cover sheet in G5, you can download the form and print it or email it to have your authorized representative sign it. After it's signed, you can upload the completed form back into G5. And if you have any issues, you can email it directly to your program officer and we will upload it into your grant file for you. But any cover sheets that don't have that signature will be returned to you because that is required. All right, next slide. For the next section of your final performance report, we're going to look at the executive summary. So if you want to click on that form, it's on the screen and it's basically just a blank form, but you will enter your PR number once again at the top. The primary way that this differs from your annual performance report that you completed each year is that this final performance report will be a comprehensive and inclusive explanation of all the years of your grant. If the executive summary of your final performance report, you will be talking about the full lifespan of your grant. And it's important to remember that this is only 1 to 2 pages long. So you can't copy and paste what you submitted for year 1, year 2, year 3. It's a much more global representation of what was accomplished during your project. Think about your project goals and your intended outcomes. Describe the extent to which your program was able to accomplish those things. And if not, provide rationale as to why not. Include any lessons learned and insights gained along the way. Or maybe you were able to overcome a challenge and accomplish your goals in a different way. If your project goals and your objectives were not actually met, provide in your executive summary information about those challenges that affected your project implementation. For example, a common challenge we see is that a program experienced some project director turnover or faced delays in hiring. Include that detail in your summary. Lastly, in your executive summary, we want to know about what contributions your project has made to research, knowledge, practices, or policy. That could be at a local level, a state level, or even at a national level. Things that you have learned from your program evaluation or trends in data that have been documented along the way. Next slide. So let's take a look at this example of an executive summary that was submitted. We can see that the project manager has included the PR and award number in the space provided in the top right corner. The executive summary opens up with a very short overview of the goal of the project and the completion towards that goal. Next, the project director takes time to highlight some of the achievements and or progress towards the project goals, including data. And finally, you can see that the project director took time to discuss the challenges as well and made sure to give detailed rationale for the actions that they took. I'll just give, okay. And another example for us is that the project director provided additional context for the activities occurring. For example, they mentioned the math boot camp. Another key piece of information shared are challenges in the data and what types of interventions or solutions the program is putting into place. Lastly, we see that the grantee has concluded their executive summary by stating their next steps toward their goals, as well as some of the needs that they have uncovered. This is a great place to add any additional information or goals that you have related to sustainability and how the project will continue, even though the federal funding will not continue. Next slide. So the next section that we'll discuss is Section A, if you want to go ahead and open that from your list of forms. And Section A is a very big part of your FPR. So we will further break down how we will go over Section A. We will begin with an overview of how GEPRA and project measures are reported and what the differences are between them. We will then provide key tips on crafting great explanations of progress for each measure of your report. We will then show an example of GEPRA and project measures reported side by side, along with their explanation of progress. And we will go over specific GEPRA measures for each of the grants that you are a part of. So the next slide is a screenshot that shows what Section A will look like in G5. Section A contains the bulk of the information that you will submit in your FPR. For purposes of the project status chart, is to demonstrate the progress that your project has made toward the approved project objectives in your grant application. You will fill in project status charts directly in G5, though we recommend drafting them outside of the system so you can use tools such as spelling check, grammar check, and saving your work in progress. Each progress chart that you add to G5 has space for 2 performance measures. You can add additional pages for measures if needed. Note that you must report on all required measures every year without changing their wording. Please reach out to your program officer or the TA team if you're not sure what measures need to be reported on. A good way to look at it is to go back to your last APR and copy those performance measures in their entirety into this form. Okay, next page. Just as you have done with your annual performance reports, you will report both GEPRA measures that were defined in the original notice inviting applicants and your individual unique project measures that you defined based on your project goals. As a reminder, the exact wording of your GEPRA measures defined by the Department of Ed will be pre-populated for you into this Section A. And it will be labeled with GPRA under the measure type. Your project measures that you defined in your specific project may also be copied from your past APRs, as these wordings do not change from year to year. You can copy and paste the wording of the measure on in the performance measure section, but because these are your project measures, under the measure type, you will put PROJ. That's a drop-down button that's there, and that's the abbreviation for project goals. So on the next screen, you'll see what that might look like. As I stated, each OIE discretionary grant has a very specific measures referred to as GEPRA measures. When reporting on these measures, you only have to report the actual performance. You will not be reporting the target area. So leave those blank. The G5 system will also auto-calculate a percentage if you enter a ratio. You do not have to enter that information yourself. For project measures that you defined on your unique program, you will enter the measure as you have done on your previous performance reports, label it as project, and you will probably have both a target area and an actual performance area. So be sure to fill in both the target and the actual. In the meantime, be sure to look up any of your old APRs, and this will make reporting much less stressful and more smooth, because that will tell you where you need to enter a raw number, a ratio, or a percentile. The way that you've reported on it in the past is the way that you will report on it on your final performance measure. All right, here is on the next slide, just some further detail about the explanation of progress that is in your Section A progress status chart. This explanation is a little similar, but mostly different than your executive summary. When you are writing your explanation of progress, you will want to provide both quantitative and qualitative data that gives your reader insight, not only about whether or not your goals were met, but also provide insight about your background and the context under which you were operating, as well as challenges you overcame as you dealt with the impacts. In this narrative explanation of progress, you should demonstrate how you have met or made progress towards the measure. If it was not met, explain an explanation why. This piece is very important and will serve as a record of progress, so be as detailed here as you can. This is where you will need to describe what your ratios are measuring, how you collected the data to report on the measure, and the frequency of your data tracking or collection. Here is where you will describe any measurement tools that you used, as well as your data collection window. Explain evaluation methods and how data were analyzed. Briefly describe related activities and accomplishments. But this explanation should be different than what was in your executive summary. And then finally, the GEPRA measures established for reporting go directly to Congress under the Government Performance and Results Act. And of course, because this is your final performance report, you will include data from each year of your grant implementation, as well as any previously reported baseline data. And now I'm going to turn it over to Alani and Doris to continue.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Linda, for that amazing explanation. Before we begin, I just wanted to say these next couple of slides are going to go through everyone's GEPRA measures, and then we're going to show you on the screen exactly how that's going to look on your final performance report. I see a lot of comments in the chat just asking how to report it, what does it look like? So I'm going to go through that at the very end. I'm just going to go through briefly all of your GEPRA measures. Here's just a quick glance of your ACE GEPRA measures. Just remember that the exact wording you see here are pre-populated in the performance measure box of each GEPRA. So that's the really fun thing about G5 is that, for those with tons of GEPRA measures like ACE, like PD, it will already be pre-populated inside of your G5 reporting tool. So I'm just going to just a quick glance at your GEPRA measures. Also going to show those folks that are in here for FPR. Here's a quick glance of your GEPRA measure as well. I highly recommend screenshotting it and just saving it on your desktop. And then furthermore, just quickly going over your null at ED GEPRA measures. Here's a quick glance at the NYCP measures. Remember, the exact wording you see here are going to be inside of your G5 system as well. So here for the step GEPRA measure, I'm just going to explain just a little bit for just a reminder for everyone on the call today is that the GEPRA measures with the asterisk must be reported on by all grantees. And so if you are a 2023 grantee, you are going to be reporting on GEPRA 1, 2, and 3. If you are a 2022 grantee, you're going to report on GEPRAs 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. And just letting you all know that GEPRA 5 and 7 are not applicable to any current STEP grantee. And so just I highly recommend if you're a STEP, just screenshotting this slide for yourself so just you can remember that quick tip for you. Moving on to our PD folks. Again, just a reminder to folks, as of today, today can be a lot of information and a lot of changes. And so we highly recommend you going through the PowerPoint again, going through all of your forms so you have everything that you need. And so just wanted to mention that for your PD GEPRA measures, just remember you have to report on your GEPRA and your program measures and also your project measures. So GEPRA has that extra, set of data to report. And like I mentioned, again, to report it in your FPR for PD, you have to report for your program measures as well. So that was just a really quick glance of your GEPRA measures, only because they're going to be pre-populated in G5. And so here is the the meat and potatoes, what everyone's been, wanting to talk about. How does this look? How can we put it in? What do you mean by reporting on all of it? So I'm going to show some examples of some scenarios. And so this first scenario is someone that has to report on baseline data. So if that is you, if you were instructed to have baseline data, and if you reported baseline data in one of your APRs, this is the example for you. So here's a sample FPR that measures and is supposed to be including your baseline data. So we're just going to go through what that looks like, and it'll pop up in red. So remember and of course it's going to be in G5 to use the exact GEPRA data and denote inside each of the boxes what is baseline, what's year 2, what's year 3, just making sure that you denote that difference between each of the measure of the data groups. And then again, make sure you select GEPRA when you are inside your G5 system. Again, it's going to be a click down box. You click it, you're going to see GEPRA, you're going to see, project. So make sure you click your GEPRA. And then enter only the actual performance data in the ratio box. So for project measures, you're going to report on both, but for GEPRA, you're only going to report on ratio. And then again, as always, like Dr. Breaks has mentioned before, enter your explanation of progress for the entirety of all of your rows, whether your baseline, year 1, year 2, year 3, make sure that your explanation of progress wraps it all up in a nice bow for you. And so here's another example that we're going to go through. If you did not have to collect baseline data, but you still have your year 1, your year 2, here's an example of how to report that inside your FPR. So we're going to go through what it would look like if you enter in section A when submitting your FPRs for these GEPRA measures. Again, it'll pop up in red, the exact wording from your GEPRA. For grant programs that you don't have baseline data for, just simply start reporting on grant years 1, 2, 3, etc. Again, make sure that you denote that, and you also click GEPRA. Make sure you do click GEPRA and select that as your measure type. Again, only enter the actual ratio in the box. And then finally, to wrap it all up in a bow for you, you're going to talk about your all the years and your explanation of progress. And so again, just going to show that on the screen of the ways that you can denote that inside of your G5 system. And so lastly, for those that everyone should have project measures. And so here's lastly how we're going to talk about how to place that in your system when you're doing your final report. So these are the unique measures that are defined for your program. You must use the exact wording from your project measures from your previous APRs. So if you don't know the precise wording of all of your project measures, a really big tip is to pull all of your previously submitted APRs and just have them in front of you before you go into, this process and start typing in and or copy and pasting your data in your words, because you have to use the exact wording that you locked in from your very first APR. And so again, if you have baseline data, denote that baseline data, but if you did not, collect any baseline data, just start off by denoting year 1, year 2, year 3. Again, make sure you're clicking project on that drop-down menu. And for this one, you're going to be reporting on your target and your actual performance data. So you're going to enter both ratios for your project measures, the target and then the actual. And then again, to wrap it up in a nice bow for your FPR is enter your explanation of progress for all of your data, whether it's baseline in year 1, baseline year 1, year 2, year 3, all of that. So just keep in mind for each of your project measures that you will have your each year of operation inside of those boxes. So I know that that was a lot of information just thrown at you all. So I'm just going to stop here if there's any questions to ask your program officers, because all your program officers are here on the call. If there's also to our program officers, if there's any points that I have missed in
Yeah.
this great point, I will go on mute now.
Okay, thank you, Doris.
Yeah.
On this, I just want to let you all know as to, you know, when you're doing your, putting this information in, if you reported raw number from your previous APR, you're going to report raw number. If you reported ratio on your previous APR, you're reporting ratio here. Percentage, same thing. The only one that is going to remain ratio is your GEPRA data. But all the rest you're reporting on it how you previously reported. That the same goes for how Doris said the wording of the measures that shouldn't change. And with this one too, if you guys did not have baseline yet first year of your GEPRA and you didn't have to, and it was just year one, then you're just going to put year one, just really copying your previous APRs. Nadine, you can put the percentage on your project measures however you reported it from the previous year. That's how you're going to report it again. Yes, Rita, you're reporting, this is an accumulation, so you're going to report like the screenshot that Doris put in for each objective that you have, you're going to put every year. So if you have 6 objectives and you had 4 years of that, you're gonna, year one, you're going to have all 4 years, and you do that for each year of the grant. Well, we'll just get and look at part B. And this is part B, this is your budget information. So on this section, this is going to be section B, your budget information. You can use as many pages as necessary as it says, but this is just where you're going to provide us a narrative of your spending for the entire grant period. You're also going to provide us with a form of the spending for the entire grant. And our Synergy team has that form for you all. The most important thing here, and I will tell you this, and our other program officer will let you know, if you don't have in your narrative the remaining balance, if you do have a balance, even if it's 0, whatever balance that you have in G5, you need to put in this budget narrative, and those have to align, they have to match. And if you have $420,000 left in G5 and it's unobligated, we also need to know that in this budget narrative. So you'll just put, we have expended all the funds and we are at $0 in G5, or we have $420,000 that's unobligated in G5, and we will not need to obligate these funds. That has to be in here. If it is not in here, it is an incomplete FPR. You can have everything else. If that one little statement is not in your FPR, it's incomplete, and we'll have to come and call you and ask you, and until it's complete, this is going to be in a non-compliance. So make sure you have that in your FPR. Next slide. And here it is again. So this is because it's this important. So when you're submitting your FPR, just state the exact amount on the balance. Like I said, if it's 0, if it's 420,000, and that's the balance in G5, and those funds are unobligated, and they're not going to be obligated. So this is your final performance report, and there will not be an opportunity for carryover or NCEs. So be mindful of spending funds down now. And on this point as well, whatever the last day of your grant is, for a lot of you, it's September 30th. After September 30th, that's the last day of your grant. That's the last day of gathering any data to support those objectives. So after September 30th, it's called a liquidation period for the 120 days, and you may draw down, but you're going to draw down only to support the administrative duties on completing that final performance report. No activities can happen after that. So here's a sample section of the budget information. And in this section, um, this is an example of how to kind of just put a sentence or two in each category. There's also examples that where they put the entire paragraph, just kind of tell us an entirety of the grant and why the funds are remaining there and all of those things. But let's see. Oh, so one more time on your grant, the budget part, if we can go back. So this is a narrative that's organized by the category. This is the most important thing again. Make sure you're stating in the FPR that the exact amount of the balance in G5, whatever that is, and those funds are unobligated and they're not going to be obligated from that point out. So that's the end of the funds. Make sure that's stated, bold it, highlight it, whatever you have to do. Make sure it's in that FPR or we'll have to send you the entire FPR back. And I appreciate a lot of my grantees in the past emailing me that those unobligated funds, but it really needs to be in that APR. And that is the most important thing about your budget. And this has, you'll look at this and it says we anticipate to be on target with this spending in this budget category. You're not going to put that. You're going to have, this is the end of the budget.
So
And your budget,
will this
sorry.
information be required?
It is required. You can have a budget information, not for each one. So this is an example of an APR budget. A good example of a budget information is just really telling us why there's leftover funding,
Oh,
if there's any.
there's no next on this because it's ending.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So just go back to the other slide right before this. This is pretty much what you're going to put. If there's budget remaining, why there's budget remaining, why there's funding remaining, and stating that funding and that those funds are unobligated or zero. And
Okay.
zero is an easy way to close you out and closing you out in compliance.
All right, now, Donna, we're going to move on to part C. And if you could just click the slide. So for part C, this is the final section. So section C is where you get to include any information that either did not fit into sections A and B, or any additional information that did not have a home somewhere else in the application or in the report. You might include some photos, which are some of our favorite things to see, or student work samples, some newspaper clippings or accolades from other agencies and organizations. So in this section, we will review section C. Next slide. And so with section C, some additional information is there is 4 questions that you must elaborate on. All grantees must answer question 1, and the other questions are optional, but very encouraged to do so. So the questions are 1, utilizing your evaluation results, draw conclusions about the success of the project and its impact, describe any unanticipated outcomes or benefits from your project and any barriers that you may have encountered. Question 2, what would you recommend as advice to other educators that are interested in your project? How did your original ideas change as a result of conducting the project? 3, if applicable, describe your plans for continuing the project, such as sustainability, capacity building, and or disseminating the project results. And the last question 4, report on any statutory reporting requirements for this grant program.
I just have a quick question. Is number 4 then the GEPRA measures, or is it something else?
That's the GEPRA measures.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah.
Awesome. So now that we have gone through all this information, we have, gone through all of the steps, I'm just gonna talk through just a really quick checklist just to have, if you have a sticky note, if your person has sticky notes like myself, or if you like to, write down all of your steps one by one. Here's just a really great checklist, and we'll also post it again in the chat for you all. So my biggest tip for those to just start this process is make sure you have access to your G5. If you haven't logged in a while, if your authorized rep, hasn't logged in a while, I definitely recommend you do this now rather than later, so that when you get to the end of your 120 days, you're not scrambling trying to figure out how to get in, how to get your authorized rep in, because the biggest piece of information here is only your authorized rep listed in G5 may sign and submit the report. So just ensuring that you have that access is really important. Another piece of advice that we want to give you is make sure you locate all of your APRs before you even sit down and think to type anything out. It's so handy to have all your APRs right there. You can copy and paste it, you can retype it, however that process feels comfortable for you. Having everything in one place is super, super helpful. So if you don't have all of them, if you're a project director that kind of, stepped in midway and you haven't accessed all of the past reporting yet, I recommend you reaching out to your program officer even today and just ask for all of that information so that you can have it. Again, we did post a link earlier in the webinar, and we'll post it again, where you can find all of the forms. So your first form that you have to submit for your FPR is your cover sheet. That is also in the link that we have provided. The next thing you have to remember you have is your executive summary, which is also in that link. And then, as always, your section A, your B, and your C. So we really hope that, this FPR checklist that we have created for you is really helpful as you are completing this amazing, pivotal part of your program and your project and for your grant. And so I will toss it back to Donna Bussell, who is going to go over some important reminders and just some really, dates to keep in mind.
I will also go back on that, your authorized rep and your project director. If those need to be updated, let's update them as soon as you can, because I know you may have sent us information earlier this in the summertime, and we can't update while these your grants are in the middle of NCCs or getting reviewed and memo slates and things like that. We can't update anything in G5. So now that I know we have 3 NYCP on here and maybe a couple of, STEP, I still don't know if we can do that, but whoever else is in here, ACE, you're fine. But if you guys have any updates that need to be done, send us another email. Because since we can't do those all at once, sometimes those get lost in the process. And like she said, if you are not in there and updated in G5 as the project director, it takes just a long time to get any of that done, and it takes you longer to put your things, everything in. And also, besides the budget information that's important, that needs to be in this final performance report. Another thing that will kick this back out to you is where it won't be in compliance and we have to do it again and we can't close you out in compliance. It's the budget information. It's putting 999s because this is your final performance report. We don't need any 999s. It has to be final. So give us that. And your authorized rep, certifying official, whatever you want to call them, somebody other than you as the project director needs to sign that cover sheet. If it's not your authorized rep on record, then let us know who the authorized rep on record is going to be so we can get all of that changed over as soon as possible. But that will also put you in non-compliance. So make sure that all of those are getting, those are 3 big things. Make sure those things are getting done so we can close you out in compliance, because you guys have been amazing. So important reminders. All you project directors and certifying officials, authorized reps will be notified as soon as G5 is open. We're going to try and get those packages ready a month before the FPR is due, maybe even a little bit earlier. FPRs are due 120 days after the final date of your grant. So if your grant is September 30th, like David put in there earlier, it's going to be around January 28th. And only the grant project director on record in G5 may submit the report. G5 will close and not accept any reports after the reporting deadline. So 4:30 Eastern time is when it will close. on January 28th. So make sure that you're getting all of that information in. You will not be able to go into G5 after the reporting deadline to revise your report. That's true. You won't be able to go back into G5, but we may have to contact you. If one of those big 3 things aren't in your final report, we will have to contact you to make sure we get those just so we can close you out in compliance. When's the latest we can do a budget modification if our grant is ending September 30th? Right away. Nadine, we probably need to do that. If you know right now what that's going to be, I would submit that as soon as you can. Any other questions? Any updates on the new competitions results will be announced. The new competitions, all I can tell you right now is that we're all working really hard on all of these. And they have to be announced before and obligated before September 30th. So they'll be announced before that and they'll be obligated by September 30th. That's the very last day. So we're really working and trying to push all of these things through as quickly as we can. Nancy, the form for the budget modifications, our Synergy team has that. Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, our Synergy team, Nancy, has, if you need a budget modification, those are there. You can use the last one that was approved as well. Yeah, Doris, can we get Nancy a form?
Yes, we are locating that now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys reach out to us, reach out to your program officers, and if we can go to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide, the last slide. Here are your program officers. Amanda she's gonna have part of demo. ACE, she has ARPAIR, NOL, NOLRC, NYCP. Linda has PD and a little bit of ACE. Misty has NATRI, STEP, and a little bit of ACE for right now until the new grants come out. Then they're gonna have more. For my ACE folks, I don't know if you were on the APR call or not, but I'm still going to be here at OIE. I just won't be with discretionary. I'll be on the other side of the house, but I'm still here to help. So anything that our program officers need or it's discretionary needs, just let them know, reach out to me, and we'll help as much as we can. But thank you all. If there's no more questions, we are free, and we will definitely let you know. Our team, Amanda, Linda, and Misty will let you guys know whenever those packages are ready. Thank you guys. Thank you all.